As Amanda said, I'm with the Eden Prairie Police Department, and I've been there for about 22 years now. As a matter of fact, on the 1st of May, I just celebrated my 19th year with Eden Prairie. I work with an organization or a group of detectives and police officers in the southwest suburbs that we call the 494 corridor. One of the things we realized right off the bat when Eden Prairie started doing this was that our resources couldn't support the needs for the area, and it certainly couldn't support the needs of when we would run demand stings or recovery operations, things like that. We needed more bodies, we needed more people who were in the know. So we kind of took a look along the 494 corridor to see who was doing this, and we realized Plymouth was doing it really well, Maple Grove was doing it well, Bloomington was doing it very well. And we were trying to do it, learn it, and partner with people who knew what they were doing. Minneapolis was doing it well, St. Paul was doing it well. We thought, well, we could bring some of that model out here. So we have, in Minnesota, we have a task force. It's called the Human Trafficking Task Force. It's run out of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehensions. We are not part of it, but we work with them rather well. So we just formed our own little working group. So on a quarterly basis, the cities of Eden Prairie, Minnetonka, Plymouth, Maple Grove, Bloomington, and Richfield, and then South Lake Minnetonka Police Department joined in as well. And then we will have support from St. Louis Park, and we'll have support from Edina as well. We'll get together and we'll do some quarterly operation. So that'll either be, we'll target demand, we'll target recovery, or something like that. Sometimes it's juvenile demand, sometimes it's adult demand, and it takes several different looks. The reason I bring this up is because I want you to know that this is an issue that we've tried to attack in the western suburbs, and a lot of people don't think this would be something that would happen in the suburbs. Okay, when we developed the street crimes unit, which was just me at one point, we took a look at it. We kind of peeled the onion back a little bit, and we realized that this is happening in Eden Prairie, and it's also happening in our colleagues. I don't know if you know this, but Bloomington has more hotel rooms than any other city in the state. So we've got the issue, and when we started looking deeper into it, we realized that we had our head in the sand for way too long. We were doing everything reactive. We were doing nothing proactive. We were doing nothing to reach out to people. We were doing nothing to target demand. So that's kind of how we began, and how I'm standing here in front of you is the collaborative effort with a lot of other people who've put their minds, hearts, and souls together. Tonight I want to talk to you a little bit about how the internet and some social media impact potentially your children, or how they're recruited and they're targeted off of the internet. In order to do that, I think I need to give you a little bit of a framework. So we're going to talk pimpology a little bit, which is kind of an industry term. Talk about the internet, some demand, some supply, some unintended consequences of what happened when we shut down Backpage, and I'll talk about that a little bit as we go. Some general awareness, and then what I think is the most important part is I'm going to show you case examples of real ways that people have targeted kids on the internet, and then how it's most likely going to happen if it were to be, and if you were a parent, you would like to look and see what this looks like. And then some times for question if we can. So pimpology 101. Not everybody grows up and wants to make themselves available to be targeted by another person to be put out for sex, right? I think that's a pretty safe assumption. This isn't the dream of people when they go to school. Here's how this happens, because it's hard to wrap our heads around it, because if you're sitting here, generally speaking, it might be something that has never crossed your mind. I have vulnerabilities. I have fractures in my soul. There's things where my self-esteem, I'm worried about, okay? I haven't shaved for you guys. That's bugging me tonight, okay? When you look at that, and when I'm standing in front of you, it's something I'm thinking about. I currently have transition lenses in my glasses. I don't like them. I thought I would like them, but I don't. So when I walk into a room, my glasses stay gray for way too long, and then there's this phase where they're just kind of a creepy tint that I don't like, all right? Point being, if somebody gave me another set of glasses right now that were my prescription, I would prefer to wear them. If somebody gave me a little bit of time before I got here to shave, I would have liked to have done that for you. Other people have vulnerabilities too. They might be from a family that's got a lower socioeconomic status, and they're in a city like Eden Prairie, where all of our kids go to spring break in Mexico, Cozumel, and they have these lavish vacations. They all wear Ugg boots, and that's actually a big deal, right? Maybe there's a split in the family. They're not receiving the love that they desire. Maybe nobody's caring about them. Maybe nobody's paying attention to them, okay? It fractures them. It fractures their soul, just kind of like this imagery does. So this is a baseline that we're actually all on. Okay, sitting in this room, every one of us has got something that might not be perfect in our lives. Right? So it just takes somebody to come and find the cracks and exploit the cracks. Okay? I use this principle when I investigate people. I use this when I interview people. Okay? We've all seen it in television, or on, right, where we bring the person into the interview room, the detective's sitting across from them, there's a big light, put the light on their face, and we said, tell me what you did, I know you did it, blah, blah, blah. Okay, do you think that actually is the way it works? Absolutely not. Who would want to talk to a person like that? I'm going to engage in conversation with you. I'm going to build rapport with you. I want you to like me because we're going to have a conversation. And I'm going to ask you hard questions. And if you don't like me, you're going to shut down right away. But if you do like me, you might be more inclined to talk to me. And then I might exploit something in that to glean some more information to build my case. The very same thing that a trafficker does. I hate to put it like that, but I think that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah. You guys kind of get that? Okay. For some people, it's love or it's money. If I give you, here's a great example. There's a case that we've worked recently where there was a girl who was in foster care at 6 years old. She'd been in 40 foster cares. This isn't trafficking related, but the model still applies. 40 foster cares. She got out and was asked, met some people, okay? And they didn't ask questions of her, they just provided things for her. It was kind of like a little family. So she got a cell phone. She didn't ask about where it came from. She just got it. Never asked who pays the bills. Didn't care. Didn't have one. One presented itself in front of her, and so she just kept it. And so when somebody asked her to do something, like drive a getaway car, she didn't ask any questions about it. Because you don't do that. You don't ask questions. If you get something that you don't have shows up in your lap, don't ask questions about it. Just enjoy it. There was leverage that was created, all right? That happens the same way in a sexual relationship. There might be I hate to come down Main Street with it, but let's do it. There might be a girl who's not feeling as pretty or as socially accepted as somebody else. And somebody might come up and talk about how beautiful she is. And it may come out random, but she's feeling good for a change. Somebody's paying attention to her. They build that relationship up, keep her liking that relationship. And then at some point, might tell her that they love her. And this is a whole new thing. We're a relationship now, we're a couple. And even though it seems like it's too good to be true, the feeling is too good not to be true. And then maybe there's a compromise that's asked of them. Would you do me a favor? We're running a little low on money. You love us. We're a thing right now. You love us, right? Would you give my friend a massage? His back's tight. Needs a massage. You'd make some money for me, please? And it sounds ridiculous, but that is a story that I've heard from the street that I thought was ridiculous when somebody told it to me in a PowerPoint. But it played out in real life for me. And that massage turned into, and if at the end, it's totally good with me, but if at the end you just, I'm trying not to be graphic with you guys here, but you know where I'm going with this, right? Yeah. Okay. Then we get some money, and we want to get that money, because then we can continue to have a life and a relationship and fun together. And then at some point, once she does that, even though it was for love, he might use that against her and say, now look what you've done. You've made money on this. And starts to work that against her. Might even want to take the money away. But if he's smart enough, he will have, he'll control her. And there's ways of controlling people by force, and then there's ways of controlling people by kind of power, right? So let's say you're in a position where you've got another person that's dependent on you. Let's say you've got a child and you're a single person. And this person is having you, okay, now you've got a pimp who's asking you to have sex for him. He's taking care of you, he's taking care of your kid, but he's also taking care of maybe your mom. So grandma gets taken care of. So he extends the control out beyond just the one person, right? And you extend that control out because then if you want to walk away, then it's going to hurt somebody else in your family line, right? So it doesn't always happen exactly this way, but you get the idea. This model can be moved around several different ways. So that's kind of how people get into it. There's several other reasons, but yeah, I just want to give you an overview of it. So what I'm here to really talk about is what can you do as parents to watch out for your kids or family members if you see them getting into this? So there's sites that we used to talk about a lot. Did anybody remember hearing of Backpages? Okay, Backpages.com or Craigslist. There used to be a connection section on Craigslist. There's other things called seeking arrangements that I really want to get into. It's something I see more in the western suburbs, and preferred 411. I could get that off the slide. Here's what happened one time though. We shut down Backpage, and that was it, man. We won. Sex trafficking just went away, right? When it first went down through FOSTA, they declared that they shut Backpage down. The first time they shut it down, what they shut down was the escort section. So everybody just moved their traffic someplace else. They moved it to like the dating section, right? So it didn't really shut it down. First day that announcement was made, our friends in Washington County came in and said, hey, find a pimp today. So the analysts and the detectives went in and they found Ricky Turner. And they found Ricky Turner to be operating right in the city of Minnetonka, right on the Wayzata Bay area. Ricky Turner was openly displaying on his Facebook page thousands of dollars of cash, was openly saying that Backpage shut down, we've got the client list, come hook up, or come choose up with us. It only costs you $2,300 to go work for him to be his prostitute. You got to pay that up front to get on his team. But once you got on his team, then he would do the marketing. He would do all of it through his girlfriend, Brittany. And that's what they did. And we worked this case for several months. When I say we, the primary agencies were the East Metro Trafficking Task Force, led by Woodbury, and the Washington County Attorney's Office, and the Minnetonka Police Department, and then we supported just by adding bodies and for surveillance and things like this. So by no means was this a Carter case or an Eden Prairie case. I'm referencing this because we worked on it, it shows the example, but the credit goes to Washington County. When we went to arrest Ricky Turner, it was at the property. It was a VRBO on Lake Minnetonka. He was paying $6,000 a month to stay there. There's 2 homes. And then they also had a hotel that they worked out of. But as we approached, we're all dressed like SWAT team people because we used the SWAT team to do it. And because Ricky was known to have guns and drugs and all kinds of other stuff. Ricky's in the car with 2 females. One's 17, one's 18, but she's just 18. These are kids from the southwest suburbs that were being turned that day. They literally were in their car. It was literally happening that day. And he'd been working on them for a couple of weeks because earlier he saw them leave from a Wayzata Qdoba. And he just stopped the car like we would make a traffic stop. And he got out and started talking to the girls. And he's a handsome guy, and he was decked out with Rolexes, and he was driving a kind of a cool BMW with plates, and he offered them a lifestyle that they didn't have, which they had a pretty good one. I mean, they were driving a Mercedes SUV when they got stopped, right? But he offered them a fantasy life that they weren't experiencing, and something way more interesting than their 17-year-old, high school life. Let's be careful of this one. This is what I see. Here's how this plays out in a city like Eden Prairie. I've met with girls who say that I met some older men on seeking arrangements or other sugar daddy sites. And sugar daddying means that there can be sugar mamas too, but primarily sugar daddies. There's an older male who's looking for younger female companionship. And it's kind of sold as platonic. They're just going to meet someplace. And that legend gets permeated through the school, right? So the girls I've talked to were saying, I did it because so-and-so did it. And they said they just had to have coffee with this guy and got paid $350 just to have coffee with this old guy, and it was only an hour. Okay. How did that go for her? Well, she called me and made me stay on the telephone line with her while she was having coffee with him because she didn't trust it. Okay. It's a flag that should pop up. I mean, I have an extreme paranoia, but this is one that should have popped up, I think. Is that what happened? Well, no, he wanted to have sex with her, but that was just that one occasion. Okay. What was your experience been? Well, I've met 3 men off of it. And this is a current 18-year-old, but when she's telling me the story, she was 17 at this time. She was 19, 17. I was mad at my boyfriend, and so I went on the site, got 3 dates. First one, guy wanted to meet me for coffee. When I got there, he wanted to meet me for coffee in the parking lot in his car. Okay? What was his expectation? Well, he wanted to have sex. Okay? Did that happen? No, it didn't happen. Okay. What was the next experience? Well, the next experience was I was mad at my boyfriend again. I answered an ad. Guy took me out to his bar in North Dakota, and we drank in his bar, and what was the expectation there? Well, he raped me. Okay. That just came out, like that was the essence of that conversation. All right, I learned a valuable lesson there. Don't have these phone calls. Do these in person, have support with you and ready, because I just took her someplace back to a rape. That's a mistake I made. But this is her experience. Got drunk, got paid, but got raped. What was the third time? Well, that was just straight sex for money. 17-year-old girl in our school. Okay, that's how. And why did it happen a second time? Or sorry, the third time? Well, what brought you to that? Well, I had already had it happen. Figured it. That's as bad as it could happen. So it had to be better from there. Okay, logic, maybe flawed logic, but that was the process that was going on. So anyhow, I wish that was the last time I'd ever heard of sugar daddy sites. But then you get another telephone and you look into it, and it's a grandparents bringing into a 16-year-old girl's phone, and there's 7 sugar daddy sites, 4 of which I'd never heard of before. 7 apps that were out there. And then there's another girl that came in, and oh yeah, we've heard about it because we heard this girl did it and we heard that girl did it. What'd they tell you about it? Oh, you just have to have coffee with the guy. Like, they didn't tell you about the rape part? Because that's what happened. Okay. I've asked, of all the girls that have actually done this, I've asked them what percentage have been either a sexual encounter for money, where you got paid to have sex, or that was the intended, what the person intended. 100%. 100% of it was. And it gets sold and it gets resold in the minds of the kids in our schools. So this is one that really concerns me. Ashley Madison, if you're interested in, if you're in a monogamous relationship and you'd like another person that you don't want your spouse to know about, then you go to Ashley Madison. Okay, this just gives an example. Where do people meet for sex nowadays? Okay, this is kind of it. A lot of these are very, very, very benign sites. Facebook, most everybody looks at Facebook. Instagram, Snapchat, Tinder, Grindr, WeChat is up there because in our foreign nationals, this is one of the ways that they most commonly communicate in. And this is the one that you guys might want to pay attention for. Okay, if you're still looking at your kids' phones and you're looking through their apps and you see texting apps, text me, text free, text now, and all the other variants of that, they should be questions that you ask. Who do you communicate with on this and why? Because this is outside of their telephone. This is a way for them to communicate where if you're monitoring their chats and things like that, you're not seeing this because this is app-based and it's going outside what you're looking at. So this is one to pay attention to. It's very common. I have several of them, actually, because I use them to try and communicate with people to bring them to me, and it's the easiest way to work it. I want to talk about grooming. I want to talk about maybe what it would look like. Okay, so let's use Facebook. Okay, Facebook's dead, but everybody who says it still uses it, right? This is a standard Facebook blast that I caught. This is actually straight out of a Facebook search warrant that I served, and this was what goes out. I'll try and read it to you because sometimes it's hard to see. I apologize, I'm blocking everybody over here, but all right, this was back in 2017. If you were here last year, you saw this slide, but this is just a gentleman who puts out, it's a cut and paste, and he blasts it out to any hot-looking girl that he sees that he thinks he hopes will respond to him, okay? Body of this text is, if you got in this game to win, let me be your solution to success. You look qualified, but the only thing you're missing is someone like me who's a visionary and recognizes your potential and wants to see you reach it. He's also really good at running sentences. Part 2. Life itself is about elevation, so come explore another level of possibilities with a man who can elevate and become great, and you can become great with. What you do now determines your future later. Boy, that's a true statement on this situation. Either you will evolve or you will revolve. All right, you live with your choices, so make sure it's the right one. Don't fall for what I say, fall for what I do. And the only way you'll see my actions is if you allow me to manifest my words into reality. No hopes or wishes, just goals and ambitions. If that came to your inbox from an unknown person, I would hope you'd say, nope, but not everybody does. It usually comes with, an open Facebook page. You go and look, and the guy looks approachable, he looks attractive, he looks like he's living a life that might be interesting. And if you're in whatever county, Minnesota, wherever, and you don't see any potential to get out, and this just came to yours, and you hit him back up, and he starts talking about wanting to bring you up to the cities or where, whatever would be interesting to you, that might be something you do go for. This guy got positive. He sent 2,000 of these out, but he got responses. For crying out loud, your kids are not being held captive in Canada because they got arrested for drugs. Your grandkids aren't, but that still works. And we still take that case every couple of days. This still works. It's just marketing. So here's where I want to get into, this is kind of hard to read, so I'll try and read some of it. This is from a case that we worked where a 16-year-old female from the western suburbs was going to meet a man who was older than her and go down to Arizona because she didn't like her life here, up in Minnesota. She had been on the run 4 different times. So 1, 2, 3, this was her 4th run. First time they run, we're pretty good at catching them. Second time they run, they don't make the mistakes they made the first time, we're still pretty good at catching them. Third time they run, they've got 2 runs under their belt and they're really hard to find. The fourth time, she was gone for 3 weeks at this point. Here's a 16-year-old on the run for 3 weeks. At this point, she's living in Minneapolis down by MCAD, so Nicollet and whatever, 22nd-ish or so. Doesn't have any money, does have a mobile device. What does she have to trade? What commodity does she use? She uses the only thing that she's used to using, which is her sexuality. What we didn't know, or we ended up learning, is she had kind of an undiagnosed sexual trauma that had happened to her when she was roughly 9, 10, 11 years old, somewhere in there. So this is kind of how she gets into this role. This is not her real name. Hopefully everything that's in here is completely blacked out, all right? Hey, Daddy, my name is Brinsley, and I'm texting you about a Greyhound ticket, so can I come work for you? He responds, how old are you, ho? Where do you live? When are you looking to come? I'm 18, I live in Minnesota, and I want to come and see you as soon as possible. All right, let's do it today. I'd love to see a few pics of yourself. So she sends a few pics. There's a telephone call that goes in there. She responds to that, just says, sorry, Daddy. All right, I'm gonna cut to some chase. He says, hey, cute, nice little body on you, ho. What's your exact address, full name? I'm gonna set you up, get you a ride and a ticket. This is like the first conversation they're having. He's already calling her a little hoe, and she's responding to it. Okay, it got normalized pretty quick, right? He's gonna, you know, is that a test on his part? Where is she still talking to him? Yes. Okay, I can continue on with this line of thinking, and I might push it open a little bit. Okay. He's gonna put her on the Greyhound. Lives in, gonna put it in somebody else's name, and then this is an important text here. She just says Daddy, and it comes out of nowhere, right? Just Daddy. But if you see up in the previous text, she's referring to him as Daddy. So why did she do that? Daddy. All right, I'm gonna set you up. I'm gonna set you up, little ma. Do you have any clothes and whatever? I'm probably gonna need some clothes. She says, Daddy, all right, I'm gonna set you up with anything you need. No, I don't think so, Daddy. Here's one up here, this instant message, the next one. Good morning. Where does that come from? That comes from her seeking arrangements chat. All right, so she's starting to get hit up from some other folks on this. How's everything going? I'm gonna say you're beautiful. Hey, I'd like to meet you today. Hey, more seeking arrangements ads start popping in. All right, so she's being flooded with, and I did the background on these telephone numbers and these. Most of these dudes that are talking to her right now are 35 to 45, and most of them are, hey, they look like this right here. This is the container, at least according to what their Facebook pages look like. They've got families. She's out in Eden Prairie, Daddy. Seeking arrangements continue to come in. She keeps getting emails. She's turning those emails into text communications at some point. Do you already have my tickets? Yada, yada, yada. She's talking about she's wants it in someone else's name, and she wants to have, she's afraid that she's gonna get caught because it's in somebody else's name, and he starts talking to her and coaching her how to get through it. So she's doing some Google searches now, how to get on the Greyhound. Again, some more seeking arrangement stuff come in. Can I put it in so-and-so's name? Give me a minute. Da, 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 da. Daddy, 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 every time you see that. Can I come in a couple of weeks, Daddy? No, I already got it for today. Can you not leave today? I already, oh, okay, no, that's perfect. She'll still come. More seeking arrangements come in. She does a Greyhound check. He tells her to check her email because he's sending tickets to it. Here we go. If you forget that, she sends him this one right here. Sadly, no, I don't. Sadly, no, I don't. That was her response. Like, he asked her, do you have any cash before you get on the bus? Sadly, no, I don't. If you forget that daddy thing again, texting her on the phone when we speak, you'll end up with a belt across your ass. And then he says, try to eat. Then you won't be able to, because you won't be able to for about 4 hours after the trip starts. She says, okay, Daddy, sorry, it's a big change. If you don't call me daddy, I'm going to beat your ass. If I were to, wait, would you believe me if I just put this up on a presentation and said this is what somebody was requested to say and this girl did after about, at this point, maybe an hour, hour and a half of conversation? I don't think you'd believe me. That's why I put this up, is that this is a real thing. This happens. Okay? I can't believe it, but it does. He's calling her a hoe. He's making her call him daddy. Is he establishing control over her right now? Yeah, and she's willing to do it. She doesn't want to follow the house rules, you guys. She just wants to smoke weed. And this is how it's getting set up. Can you please set me up for a ride, Daddy? Yeah. She talks about, she doesn't want to give her name because of social media and the cops. Again, sending more pictures. He's coaching her on the way to do it. Now he wants to set up some Android Pay for her because he's giving her the tickets. He wants to give her some money. He wants to give her some clothing. He wants to set her up and get her into a position where she'll actually hop on this bus. It's a small investment on what he's looking for. All right, Snowflake. He asked for her password for her Google account. She gives it to him because he's going to add money to her Google Pay. So he goes in. What does he do when he's in her Google account? Starts checking out all of her emails, and he starts seeing the seeking arrangement stuff. Boy, you think that tells him anything? You know, she's already seeking to sell sex. So now he knows she's definitely one he can invest a little more time and effort into. Give me your story. Why did you run? Why did you run? I want to know your story. I care about you. I want you to impart yourself to me. But based on what we've all seen right now, what do you think he wants to do with that story? He wants to leverage. He wants to exploit. She wants to take a nap, which is good. She wants to get in and just relax. And then at some point here, a lot of this is just, how do I get by this? Put something in the bottom of the bus. That way, you know, you're a cute girl, make up a story, that kind of stuff. She's surprised when she's able to get on the bus. All right, here's where she reaches out to, and I think this is important. Here's where she gets mad at her friends. She gets super pissed at her friends because we're coming to arrest her, all right? That's in her 16-year-old brain, we're coming to arrest her. In her adult brain, we're trying to get a kid off of a bus who's going down someplace. We know, here's the information that we had as police officers. Our friend has been a runaway, who's been at our house drinking and smoking for a couple of days, now meets a guy on the internet. She's going down to Arizona. He bought the ticket for her, says he's really important and is going to pay for everything. And even her friends, which are like first name only, maybe street name doper friends, even they went, that doesn't sound good, right? And they had the courage to break the #1 code rule, which is talk. They had the strength to do that. They knew it was going to torpedo the relationship with her, and they chose to do that, and it saved her life. This wasn't a big deal. This wasn't a huge thing where the police come in and detectives and all this other stuff. This was 2 patrol officers, heard the story and went, that sounds really wrong. I'm going to go see if I can stop the bus. And so one of our cops just started driving to Minneapolis because he knew that's where the next stop was. The other cop got some information, and at some point they decided they should tell somebody that they're leaving the city to go stop this bus. Stop the bus, and they get her off the bus. And that was all it took, was somebody being courageous on their app. Here's where she was going. Look this story up if you want to. If you just Google Matthew D. Lyons and Sierra Vista, Arizona, this is what you'll come up with. This is the perpetrator. The first thing he does when a girl gets down to his state or his city and comes with him is he shaves their head and he tattoos them. I'd like to say this is a fake, but this is actual evidence photo. Okay? This is from the news story where the evidence photo was linked to. Property of Matthew D. Lyons. Shaved their head. If you follow the story, what this woman will tell you, she's a 32-year-old woman from Utah, is that when she got down there, shaved her head, branded her, and was going to sell her, it's a border town, was going to sell her across the border for sex. And it was a bondage and S&M, so sadomasochism and bondage style sex sale. So our 16-year-old didn't know where she was going to. Those friends who just called and said, hey, you should get off the bus, or called us to get her off the bus, that's what she was going down to. So when they broke that code, they saved her life. All right, here's what I want to get to you to. I've tried to hit it out a little bit tonight, is to protect your kids. One, you got to have straight talk with them. You got to be on them. You got to know what's on their phone. You got to do the dirty work. They got to have their passcodes. You got to be able to get into it. You got to look at their social media apps, and you got to be savvy with it. I'm not savvy enough to get to all the social media apps, and I do this on a regular basis. Pay attention to the texting apps, like I told you, and look into the content. See what they're talking about. If they're talking about issues like this, then these are, like you saw, see these random apps, if they ever, those random hit-ups like that, if they ever respond to it, you got to find out why. What made them want to do that? It doesn't just tell them no. You got to explore that conversation a little bit more, okay? Because there's something longing, there's something that's making them vulnerable. If you stop it right at just don't do that, okay, nothing got fixed, and there's going to be another avenue into them. So they have to be a conversation that happens. Set the rules and keep the rules. Love is love, okay? Love is love. It sometimes has to be hard love, but sometimes it's the only thing that saves people. Check privacy settings. If they block you out of anything, there's no reason to block you out. There's none. They're hiding. I don't know. If it gets really bad, no private zones, technology in public only, that kind of stuff. The bottom line is this: sexual exploitation hasn't changed. The technology just has, okay? To combat this, you still have to have loving relationships with the kids. You still have to have honest conversations with the kids. You still have to know who they're hanging out with and know the phone numbers and know the full names of the people that they are. If they don't know the friends that they're going out with, other than by a nickname, a street name, or a first name only, then that should be cause for concern. You can't run by these red flags when they're small red flags, because they'll turn into bigger ones. And you have to help fill those cracks. The cracks that we saw right back in screen one. Those cracks aren't there, or you're filling the cracks in with substantive things. Okay? Love, communication, conversation. Make them understand. If it's a socioeconomic thing, you've got to make them understand. Because somebody will put a skim coat over those cracks. Just a light coat of putty. And then they'll exploit that. All right. Got a little bit of time for questions. If you have them, I'm happy to answer them. Perfect. Well, then I thank you very much for your time. And if you do have questions on the sidebar, I'll be around and happy to answer them for you, okay? All right, thank you.